How did I get here? James Mitchell thought as his eyes fluttered open, disoriented by the soft hum of unfamiliar machinery. His head throbbed. His body felt as if it had been through a war, and yet, he couldn't remember a single thing about how he ended up here. The sterile white lights above flickered as he tried to sit up, only to find his body too weak to move on its own. Panic crept in. Where was he? What happened to his ship? Was he the only one left? His breath came in shallow gasps as the reality of being completely alone on an alien world sank in. A soft, melodic voice broke the silence. "You're awake," it said. James turned his head, his eyes locking with a figure standing beside his bed. She was tall, with shimmering violet skin and striking golden eyes. She was unlike anything he'd ever seen, yet there was something comforting about her presence. "Where am I?" James rasped, his voice barely a whisper. The alien woman stepped closer, her gaze softening. "You are safe," she said, though the hesitation in her tone didn't do much to calm his nerves. "We've been monitoring your condition. You're lucky to be alive." She gestured to the machines around him, their screens filled with incomprehensible symbols. "I'm Luna," she continued. "I'm the lead doctor here. You're in a healing facility on our planet, far from your own. You were severely injured when we found you. Your vitals were critical. We weren't sure we could save you." James swallowed hard. He could feel his body screaming in pain. Yet there was something else, something strange. He tried to recall the details of his crash, the final moments before the world went black, but everything was a blur. He had no recollection of how he'd ended up here, or who these beings were that were keeping him alive. Luna's expression turned to one of concern as she leaned in closer. "You've been unconscious for 3 days," she said, her voice low. "You've been stabilized, but we're still unsure how you survived the injuries you sustained." James couldn't process it all. The thought of being so far from Earth, alone in a foreign place, was overwhelming. But something about Luna's calm demeanor helped soothe his racing heart. He tried to sit up again, this time managing to lift his head slightly. "What happened to my ship?" he asked, his mind spinning with 1,000 questions. Luna hesitated before responding. "Your ship is gone," she said. "Destroyed upon impact. We found you among the wreckage." James closed his eyes briefly, taking in her words. His mission, everything he had worked for, was gone. But there was one thing that was certain. He was still alive. "We need to keep you here for further observation," Luna continued. "But we've never seen anything like you before. Your physiology is different. You heal at an astonishing rate." James raised an eyebrow. He had never heard of anything like that. "I heal fast?" he asked, still trying to make sense of it all. Luna nodded. "Yes, your wounds, your internal injuries, should have been fatal. Yet, here you are, conscious and coherent." Her golden eyes studied him closely, almost as if she were trying to piece together a puzzle. "We may need to perform additional tests. Your body, your human body, might hold answers we're not prepared for." The word struck James like a thunderbolt. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice suddenly tight with suspicion. Luna seemed to recognize the concern in his eyes. She stepped back, raising a hand in reassurance. "Don't worry, Commander Mitchell," she said, her voice softening. "We have no ill intentions. We're just trying to understand how you survived and what it means for your species." As the weight of her words settled on his shoulders, James couldn't shake the feeling that he had just become part of something much larger than he had ever anticipated. His survival was no accident. And whatever secrets his human body held, the answers were just beginning to unfold. James lay still, staring up at the white ceiling of the alien medical facility. His body, though battered, felt strangely energized. His head, once clouded with confusion, was now clearing. Luna's words echoed in his mind. "Your physiology is different. You heal at an astonishing rate." James shifted slightly, testing his strength. It was true. The pain he had felt earlier was already fading, replaced by a sense of vitality that seemed unnatural. As he tried to sit up fully, Luna stepped into the room, her violet skin shimmering in the soft light. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her voice steady yet tinged with curiosity. "Better," James replied, his voice hoarse. He took a deep breath and swung his legs over the side of the bed, wincing slightly as his feet touched the cold floor. "You're still weak, but it's impressive," Luna said, observing him closely. "We've never encountered a species with such rapid healing abilities." It defies all known biology. James looked up at her, trying to process the weight of her words. You keep saying that. What does it mean? Why am I here? Luna hesitated for a moment before answering. It means your body is unlike anything we've ever studied. It's special. Your survival isn't just a result of chance. It might be something far greater. She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. We're not sure what it means yet, but your biology could hold answers to questions we've been asking for centuries. Answers that could change everything. James frowned, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. What kind of questions? He asked, his curiosity piqued. Luna's golden eyes met his, filled with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Questions about the nature of life itself, she said softly. About evolution, survival, and the limits of what's possible. You're not just a man from Earth anymore. You're a living mystery. James stood up slowly, his legs slightly unsteady, but strong enough to hold his weight. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice more forceful now. We need your help, Luna said, her tone serious. We need to understand you, understand your species. What makes you different? It's not just about saving you anymore, James. It's about understanding how your kind thrives while others struggle to survive. James shook his head, still processing. I'm not some lab rat. Luna stepped closer, her eyes searching his face. No, you're not, she said softly. But you are the key to something far bigger than either of us can comprehend. If we can learn from you, it could change everything, not just for us, but for your entire species. James paused, feeling a strange pull in his chest. Despite the overwhelming odds, he felt a sense of duty, a need to help, to understand. What do you need me to do? He asked, his voice resolute. Luna smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. We need you to trust us. We need you to stay. We need to study your healing process, your biology, everything we can. And in return, we'll help. You get home. James took a deep breath, his mind racing. He didn't know what this alien world wanted from him, but one thing was certain. He was no longer just a survivor. He was part of something much larger. I'll do it, he said, meeting Luna's gaze. I'll stay. James woke up to the soft, rhythmic hum of the medical facility, his body still adjusting to the alien surroundings. Luna's words from the night before echoed in his mind. Asterisk, you're not just a man from Earth anymore. You're a living mystery. Asterisk, he rubbed his temples, trying to shake off the heaviness in his head. The bizarre situation was starting to feel more real with every passing moment. The soft light filtered through the translucent walls of the room, casting a calming glow. He glanced at the sleek machinery that surrounded him. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen on Earth. Advanced yet clean, efficient yet almost beautiful. Luna had been clear the night before. He was special, a key to understanding something bigger, something beyond his comprehension. But at what cost? He hadn't even agreed to stay here willingly. He just didn't have a choice. It's for the greater good, he muttered under his breath. It was a phrase he had heard countless times before back on Earth, always used to justify the sacrifice of one for the benefit of many. But this was different. You're awake, Luna's voice broke through his thoughts. He looked up to see her standing in the doorway, her presence commanding, yet strangely comforting. We need to begin the next phase of our study, she continued, walking into the room. Are you ready? James nodded, even though he wasn't entirely sure what he was about to agree to. What exactly does that mean? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Luna hesitated, her golden eyes never leaving his. We need to understand your healing process. It's unlike anything we've encountered before. Your ability to recover. Asterisk so quickly asterisk, it's not natural. James raised an eyebrow. So you want to study my biology? He asked, his tone guarded. Yes, she replied. We've been observing you for the last few days, and there's something about your DNA, your cellular structure. It's resistant to most types of injury. It's something we don't understand. And what do you plan to do with that information? James asked, his curiosity rising. You said it yourself, we don't know what this means for your species. But what if we can find a way to help all of you, to make your kind immune to certain diseases or injuries? Luna said softly. Her voice was filled with hope, yet there was an undeniable urgency to it. James thought for a moment. Could what she was saying be true? Could Earth, his people, actually benefit from his survival here? He hadn't even wanted to survive, let alone be dragged into some alien experiment. But the more Luna spoke, the more he began to think that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't entirely a bad thing. "What do you need from me?" he finally asked. Luna smiled, a hint of relief in her eyes. "Just trust us, Commander Mitchell. Let us learn. Let us understand. We'll keep you safe. And in return, we'll help you get home." James felt the weight of her words, the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. What choice did he have? He didn't have any answers, but maybe, just maybe, Luna did. "All right," he said, finally letting out the breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Let's do this." Luna nodded, her eyes flashing with something resembling determination. "You won't regret this, James." He wasn't sure if that was true, but he knew one thing for certain. He had just agreed to become a part of something far larger than himself. And as much as he tried to deny it, a part of him felt a strange sense of purpose here, on this alien planet, with beings who, for all their advanced technology, were still trying to understand humanity. "Lead the way," James said, standing tall, ready for whatever came next. James stood in the sterile, white-walled lab, his mind racing as Luna prepared the equipment for their next phase of research. He had agreed to stay, agreed to let them study his unique healing abilities, but now that he was standing in front of the alien technology, a wave of doubt began to wash over him. What if he was just a subject to them, something to be dissected and tested until they had nothing more to learn? He shook the thought away. He had no choice. They held the key to his survival. "You're ready, Commander Mitchell," Luna said, her voice calm yet firm, pulling him from his thoughts. She was setting up what looked like a scanner, an intricate machine with a series of glowing, holographic panels. "We've never seen anything like this," she continued, her eyes gleaming with both excitement and something darker, an urgency to understand. James took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm ready," he said, trying to sound confident. Luna gave him a small smile. "Good. We'll start with something simple. Just a scan to see how your body reacts." The machine hummed to life as she gently guided James toward it. He felt a slight tingle as the scanner's light passed over his body, a soft buzz that made his skin prick with anticipation. "This will only take a few minutes," Luna explained as she adjusted the machine's settings. "We need to understand your cellular structure, how your body heals at such an accelerated rate." James stood still, trying to ignore the growing tension in his chest. He had always been the one doing the scanning, not the one being scanned. Now he felt exposed, like a specimen under a magnifying glass. He couldn't help but wonder if Luna and her team would figure out the truth, that his healing wasn't just a biological anomaly, but something far more profound. As the scan continued, Luna moved to the control panel, her fingers flying over the glowing buttons. She glanced back at James. "You're doing well," she said reassuringly, though her gaze lingered on him, her curiosity palpable. James wasn't sure how to respond. He had agreed to this for the good of his people, but the more he learned about their capabilities, the more questions he had. What if they found something inside him they didn't like? What if they couldn't understand his biology, and in their desperation to fix it, they broke something else? He pushed the thoughts aside, forcing himself to stay focused. "How long until you have results?" he asked, his voice steady. Luna turned her attention back to the scanner, her brow furrowing slightly. "It should be just a few more minutes," she replied, though her voice held a touch of uncertainty. James could see her mind working, calculating, trying to process the data. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the machine powered down. Luna walked over to the screen, her face a mask of concentration. The data was streaming across the holographic display, a series of numbers and graphs James couldn't understand. Luna's eyes widened as she studied the information. "This is extraordinary," she murmured under her breath. James stepped forward, trying to catch a glimpse of the screen. "What does it say?" he asked, his voice thick with curiosity. Luna didn't answer right away. She seemed lost in the data, her fingers tracing the holographic display. Finally, she looked up, meeting James's gaze. "Your cells are regenerating at an exponential rate," she said slowly. "But it's more than that. There's a structure here we've never seen before. It's not just healing, it's evolving. Your body is adapting in ways we thought impossible." James felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Evolving? What did that even mean? Was it possible that his body was changing, adapting to something beyond the human experience? "So what does this mean for me?" James asked, his voice quiet but urgent. Luna turned to him, her expression serious. I'm not sure yet, she admitted. But we need to keep studying you, James. You may be the key to something much bigger than either of us can imagine. James didn't know what to say. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out into an unknown future. One thing was certain, he was no longer just a survivor. He was part of something much larger, and he didn't know if that was a blessing or a curse. James stared at the holographic display, his mind trying to process the information that Luna had just shared. His cells were regenerating at an exponential rate, evolving in ways they could never have predicted. He had always thought of himself as just another soldier. But now, it seemed that his body held secrets that not even the most advanced alien technology could explain. Luna stood beside him, her golden eyes focused on the data as it streamed across the display. She seemed fascinated, but there was something else there, concern. This is incredible, she said, her voice soft but filled with awe. You're not just healing, James. Your body is actively adapting to its surroundings, to the injuries you've sustained. It's almost like your cells are learning, improving. James felt a chill run down his spine. Learning, he repeated, his voice tight. Luna nodded, her expression serious. Yes, it's as if your body is evolving to survive, to make sure it doesn't make the same mistakes. It's almost as if it's learning from your past injuries and making adjustments for the future. James tried to wrap his mind around it. His body wasn't just healing, it was changing, adapting. But to what end? And how much of this was a result of his human biology, and how much of it was something else entirely? What happens if this continues? He asked, his voice filled with concern. Luna paused, her fingers hovering over the holographic display. She looked at him, her gaze intense. We don't know yet, she said. But if this process continues, it could mean significant changes. Changes to your biology, to your physiology, that might make you stronger, more resilient. It could make you almost, she hesitated, searching for the right word. Invincible. James finished for her, the weight of the words sinking in. Luna nodded slowly. Yes, but we don't fully understand what that means yet. We don't know the long-term effects. James took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about something much larger. He had agreed to stay here, to help these alien scientists understand his biology, but now he wasn't sure if he had made the right choice. What if they were tampering with something they shouldn't? What if they were unlocking a power that could destroy him, and everyone around him? What are you going to do now? He asked, his voice low. Luna turned to face him, her golden eyes filled with both uncertainty and determination. We need to run more tests, she said. We need to understand this, James. We need to know how to harness it, how to control it. James nodded, though doubt still lingered in the back of his mind. He couldn't deny that part of him was curious about what they would find, but another part of him was terrified. He was being treated like a puzzle, a mystery to be solved. But what if the solution came at too high a price? He didn't know what he was becoming, but he knew one thing. He wasn't the same person he had been when he first woke up in this alien hospital. He was changing, and as much as Luna and her team wanted to understand it, James couldn't shake the feeling that they were treading into dangerous territory. He had agreed to stay, but he wasn't sure how much longer he could trust them, or himself. I'll help, he said, his voice steady, despite the storm of thoughts swirling inside his head. But I need to know everything. No more secrets. Luna met his gaze, her expression softening. You have my word, James. We'll figure this out together. But deep down, James wasn't sure they would. He wasn't sure anyone could. He could feel it in his bones. The change was already happening, and he had no idea where it would lead. But one thing was certain. He was no longer just a human soldier. He was something more, something far more dangerous. James sat in the small observation room, staring at the holographic display that hovered in front of him. His body had changed so much in the last few weeks, and the reality of it all was starting to sink in. He wasn't just healing faster. His cells were evolving, adapting in ways he didn't fully understand. Luna and her team had been running constant tests, but every time they thought they had answers, new questions emerged. His healing was unlike anything they had encountered before. The scans showed his body rapidly regenerating, but with each new scan, the data was more unpredictable. We need to run more tests, Luna had said. She was fascinated, and James could see that her curiosity had begun to outweigh her concern. But for him, the fear was growing. What if they were unlocking something in him that he couldn't control? What if this rapid evolution wasn't a gift, but a curse? The more he thought about it, the more the doubt crept in. He hadn't asked for this. He had just wanted to survive, to make it back to Earth. But now, he wasn't sure who or what he was becoming. Luna stepped into the room, breaking his thoughts. "How are you feeling today?" she asked, her golden eyes searching his face for signs of discomfort. James sighed, rubbing his temples. "Better," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "But I'm still not sure what's happening to me." Luna's expression softened. "We're learning more every day. Your body is doing things we didn't think were possible, James. But we're not sure what it means for you in the long run." James looked up at her, meeting her gaze for the first time in what felt like hours. "What if I can't control it? What if I keep evolving and—" He stopped himself, the fear suddenly overwhelming him. Luna took a step forward, her voice steady but filled with empathy. "James, you're in control of your destiny. We're here to help you understand this process. We're not going to push you further than you're ready for." James shook his head. "It's not just about being ready. I can feel it. It's like my body is changing without my permission, and I don't know what happens when I can't keep up with it." Luna paused, considering his words. She knew the gravity of the situation. They had seen his healing abilities firsthand, but this wasn't just about biology anymore. James was becoming something different, something that defied their understanding of life. "We need to take a different approach," she said finally. "We need to stop focusing on how your body heals and start looking at why it heals the way it does. There's something inside you that we don't understand yet. If we can figure that out, maybe we can find a way to control it." James thought about her words. He didn't want to be a test subject, but he also didn't want to let whatever was happening to him spiral out of control. "How long do you think it will take?" he asked, his voice softer now, tinged with uncertainty. Luna gave him a reassuring smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I can't promise anything, but we're getting closer. Every scan, every test, it brings us one step closer to understanding you." James nodded, though a knot tightened in his stomach. The unknown had always been a part of his life, but this felt different. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about keeping his humanity intact while he became something else. "Let's do it," James said, his voice more determined now. "But I need to know everything. No more secrets." Luna looked at him, the weight of his words settling between them. "I promise, James. We'll figure this out together." But as he looked into her eyes, James couldn't help but wonder if even she truly understood what they were about to uncover. James stood in the lab, his gaze fixed on the holographic screen that flickered in front of him. Luna had just left to gather more data, but the weight of the situation was starting to sink in. He had agreed to stay, to be part of their research, but the uncertainty about what was happening to him grew stronger with every passing day. His body, once a vessel of human limitations, was now becoming something far beyond what he had ever imagined. The scans, the tests, every result pointed to a shift in his biology, but no one, not even Luna, seemed to know where it would lead. He rubbed his hand over his face, trying to shake off the feeling of being both a witness and a participant in something he couldn't control. What if this transformation wasn't just physical? What if it was something deeper, something that reached into the core of his humanity? The more he thought about it, the more unsettling it became. Luna had said they were trying to understand the why behind his healing, but the implications of that question had grown larger than he could have ever imagined. Was this his human body adapting to survive, or was it something else entirely? Something that could alter the very fabric of who he was? The door to the lab slid open, and Luna entered, her face serious as she looked at him. "How are you feeling today?" she asked. James didn't look at her immediately. "I'm not sure," he said, his voice low. "This whole thing is starting to feel wrong. Like I'm losing control." Luna stepped closer, concern flickering in her eyes. "You're not losing control," she said gently. "You're evolving. And evolution doesn't always happen in a straight line." James met her gaze, his mind racing. "But what if I'm becoming something else? Something I can't even recognize anymore?" Luna's expression softened. She placed a hand on the table beside him, steadying herself. "We're trying to help you understand this, James. We're not just studying you for the sake of curiosity. If we can figure out what's happening, we might be able to help your people." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of what they meant. James leaned back in his chair, running his fingers through his hair. I don't know if I want to be the key to something bigger, he said quietly. I don't know if I want to be part of a test or an experiment. I just want to go home. Luna's gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. I understand. But the truth is, James, your body, what's happening to you? It's something we've never seen before. You might be the answer to something far bigger than just your survival. The future of your species could depend on this. James looked at her, his chest tightening. And what if I can't control it? What if this power, or whatever it is, gets out of hand? Luna was silent for a moment, then spoke with quiet confidence. That's why we're here. To make sure you're not alone in this. We're in this together. James didn't know if he believed her, but part of him wanted to. The thought of not being alone, of having someone who understood, was strangely comforting. He nodded slowly, though the uncertainty still lingered in his chest. All right, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Let's keep going. But I need to know everything. No more secrets, Luna. Luna met his gaze, her expression resolute. I promise, James. No more secrets. And in that moment, James realized that, for better or for worse, he had no choice but to move forward. The future, whatever it held, was already in motion, and he was already a part of it. James sat quietly in the observation room, his thoughts swirling. The weight of Luna's words still hung in the air. Asterisk, no more secrets, James. Asterisk, his heart raced as the quiet hum of the facility surrounded him. He had agreed to move forward, to let them study him further, but the fear he felt deep down hadn't gone away. The transformation within him was still happening, slowly but surely. Every day, something new about his body was revealed, and each discovery left him feeling more and more alien, even to himself. Luna had promised him answers, but how much of those answers were the truth? How much were they just another part of their experiment? The thought gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside. He had no choice but to trust her. Asterisk, trust them. Asterisk, a soft chime echoed in the room, signaling Luna's arrival. She stepped in, her expression a mixture of determination and concern. How are you feeling today? She asked, her eyes scanning his face for any signs of distress. James didn't immediately answer. Instead, he looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers. They felt the same, but somehow they didn't. The strength in them was different, more solid, more sure. But his mind still struggled to keep up with the changes happening to his body. I don't know, he admitted, his voice low. I feel like I'm losing myself. Luna walked toward him slowly, her golden eyes softening as she studied him. I know this is hard, James, she said, her tone gentle but firm. But you're not losing yourself. You're becoming something else, something that could help all of us. The future of your species, our survival, it's all connected now. James met her gaze, his eyes searching hers for something. Some reassurance that he hadn't made a mistake by trusting her, by trusting them. And what if it's not just about helping? What if I can't control this anymore? What if it changes me too much? Luna paused, her expression hardening. That's what we need to understand. But you're not alone in this, James. We're here to help you. We're studying what's happening to you so we can keep you from losing yourself in the process. But we need to take more steps, together. James exhaled slowly, trying to steady his racing thoughts. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust that the research, the tests, everything they were doing had a purpose. But the more he felt the changes, the more he wondered if anyone, asterisk, even Luna asterisk, could truly control what was happening inside him. What do you want me to do now? He asked, his voice steadier this time. Luna stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. We need you to trust us, James. We need to take a deeper look, not just at your healing, but at what your body is becoming. We're going to run a new set of scans today, but we'll do it together, step by step. No more surprises. James nodded, his throat tightening. He had to see this through. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that turning back wasn't an option. All right, he said, his voice quiet but resolute. Let's do it. Luna smiled, a look of relief crossing her face. Thank you, she said softly. As she guided him to the next room, James felt a strange sense of determination building within him. Whatever was happening, he would face it. He had no choice. The unknown was terrifying, but it was also his only chance. And so, with a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready for the next chapter of his transformation. What came next was anyone's guess, but he was ready to find out. James stepped into the next room, the soft hum of the machines filling the air around him. Luna stood by the console, her expression focused as she adjusted the settings on the advanced alien equipment. He had agreed to this new round of scans, though the unease inside him hadn't fully dissipated. His body was changing, and with every test, he felt more like an experiment than a human. Yet, he had no other choice. Luna's presence was a comfort, but he still couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something deeper was at play. "Are you ready?" Luna's voice broke through his thoughts. He nodded, though his heart was heavy with uncertainty. "Let's get this over with," he said, trying to sound confident. Luna gave him a reassuring smile. "This is for the best, James," she said. "We need to understand what's happening, and the more data we gather, the closer we get to finding answers." He wanted to believe her, but the words felt hollow in his mind. The truth was, he wasn't sure what the answers would bring. Would they find a way to stop this process before it changed him beyond recognition? Or was he already too far gone? Luna motioned for him to sit down on the chair in front of the machine. He did so, trying to calm his racing thoughts. The alien technology surrounded him, its sleek, polished surface gleaming in the soft light. The air was thick with tension as the machine powered up, its lights blinking to life. "This will be a simple scan, James," Luna explained, her voice calm and steady. "We'll be focusing on the molecular changes happening in your body. We need to understand how your cells are regenerating, how they're evolving." James sat still, his muscles tense as the scanner whirred to life. He couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over him. Every time they ran these tests, it felt like they were one step closer to uncovering something that couldn't be undone. The lights on the machine flashed as it moved over his body, scanning every inch of him. James closed his eyes, trying to block out the invasive feeling of being studied. He felt like he was being torn apart from the inside out, not physically, but mentally. The transformation was so subtle, but with each passing day, it was becoming more undeniable. His body was no longer just human. It was something different, something he couldn't fully understand. Luna stood nearby, watching the readouts on the console with intense concentration. James could hear her muttering to herself as the data continued to pour in. "Fascinating," she whispered, more to herself than to him. He opened his eyes, trying to read her expression, but it was a mix of wonder and concern. "What does it mean?" he asked, his voice tight. Luna looked up from the console, meeting his gaze. "The changes are more significant than we anticipated," she said, her tone serious. "Your cells aren't just regenerating, James. They're adapting in a way we've never seen before. It's as if your body is evolving, but at a rate far faster than natural evolution." James swallowed hard. "So, I'm not just healing, I'm changing. And it's not something I can stop." Luna's gaze softened, but her words were firm. "We're still trying to understand it all. But one thing is clear. You're becoming something entirely different, James. And we need to find a way to control it before it's too late." James's chest tightened. The fear that had been simmering beneath the surface for so long was now bubbling to the forefront. "What happens if we can't control it?" he asked, his voice low. Luna didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We'll find a way," she said, though there was an edge of uncertainty in her voice. James wasn't sure if he believed her. The thought of being on the edge of something he couldn't control, something that was already changing him, terrified him. But he had no choice but to keep moving forward. The future, his future, was now in their hands. He could only hope that they could unlock the answers before it was too late.